broadcasting live from Customson Studio. What a show we have in store for you this morning. First off, we're going to be talking with former congressman, current chairman of the Steuben County Republican Committee, and current candidate for Assembly, Joe Sempolinski. So Joe's going to join us. I know he's normally on Thursday, but I asked him to be on because we're filming a special regarding voting afterwards, and I wanted him to be a part of it. So Joe will be joining us. So if you have any questions for the former congressman, please feel free to weigh in at any time. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. I received this comment it was on Saturday. Trump speaks at Moms for Liberty Summit was one of the best I've seen of the president. Every New Yorker needs to see it. Oh, my music stopped playing. Sorry about that. Yes, I did not have the right button clicked. As I was saying, former Congressman Joe Sempolinski will be our guest. You got a little bonus music there this morning. But again, a viewer's comment. Trump speaks at Moms for Liberty Summit was one of the best I've seen of the president. Every New Yorker needs to see it. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I have to look that up after the program. A couple of quick updates before we get into the really important news. Of course, the execution of the hostages. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about Harris's campaign, Trump's campaign. Here's an update from a story that I brought to you back in July when Joey Chestnut was no longer allowed on the hot dog eating contest. And for some reason, this got us into quite a lengthy conversation with viewers about Joey Chestnut and the hot dog eating contest itself. Well, he dominated Kobayashi in a record-setting hot dog eating showdown for Netflix. Joey Chestnut consumed 83 hot dogs, beating his world record of 76 set back in 2022. Kobayashi ate 66. So it wasn't even really a competition. Joey Chestnut saying, "This is amazing. I've been trying to hit 80 dogs for years now. Without Kobayashi, I would never been able to do it. He drives me. We weren't always nice to each other, but I love the way we push each other to be our best." The head-to-head showdown between the fierce rivals, largely considered the two best competitive eaters in the world, was 15 years in the making. Wow. All right, so there's your update. If you want to talk about the hot dog eating contest, feel free. Also, because I mentioned this on the program, I want to say it was last week, and we wondered whatever happened about that keg party that was to be held for the frat that protected the American flag. Well, I guess they raised a total of $515,492, and they have now held that party. The party, which they were calling Flagstock, was scheduled for Labor Day. There was quite a few performers at it. I only saw clips. I know the media is trying to present it as some of the frat members were not happy because they wanted the money donated to charity instead of having the party. Well, you can find the videos for yourself. I see even Lee Greenwood played at the event. Okay. Now, here we go. Now we got to get into the nitty-gritty. Benjamin Netanyahu mourned the hostages. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a rare apology to the families of the 6 executed hostages, but insisted that he would not cave on the issue of retaining a military force near that corridor. "My heart and the heart of the nation is shattered into pieces," Netanyahu said. To the families of the 6 hostages, he said, "I ask for your forgiveness that we did not succeed in bringing them home alive. We were close, but we did not make it. I'm working around the clock, looking for every path possible to bring the remaining 101 hostages back to Israel. I've insisted on the return of the maximum number of live hostages. It is now estimated that 66 captives are still alive." Earlier in the day, U.S. President Joe Biden blamed both Netanyahu and Hamas for the absence of a deal. Biden said, "We're very close to that. Hope springs eternal," adding that we're not giving up. We're going to continue to push as hard as we can. Congressman Langworthy released this statement. "Today, we mourn the brutal murder of 6 hostages, including American citizen Hirsch Goldberg Poland, whose body was discovered by the IDF after being held hostage by Hamas terrorists for more than 10 months. During my trip to Israel, I met Hirsch's parents, who have shown incredible strength in the face of these unimaginable horrors. My deepest condolences go out to them and the other families who've lost loved ones at the hands of these murderers. Hirsch's death is a stark reminder of the pure evil that Hamas represents. America will not tolerate the murder of our citizens, and we must stand firmly with Israel in the fight to eradicate these terrorists. Thank you, Congressman Langworthy. Tim Walz, vice presidential candidate, has been slammed for appearing to flee when asked a question about the Gaza hostages. Tim Walz went viral for all the wrong reasons during a stopover at the Minnesota State Fair. This was yesterday, appearing to duck a reporter who asked him about the grim news that 6 Israeli hostages had been executed by Hamas in Gaza. In the video, which has been widely shared and viewed millions of times online, Walz, clutching a vanilla milkshake, is seen speaking to a small crowd of fairgoers and reporters. An unidentified woman's voice inquires off camera, "What's your reaction to the 6 hostages being found in Gaza?" At that very moment, Walz's attention is drawn to an approaching aide holding a smartphone. Walz tells the man, "All right," and tells the cheering crowd, "Thanks, everyone," as he bids them farewell with a friendly wave without addressing the question. Although it's not certain whether Walz heard the question, the clip drew sharp criticism from conservatives online who seized on the moment to paint the vice presidential candidate as having run away from a simple question about a horrible tragedy. Tim Walz was asked his reaction to the 6 executed hostages being found in Gaza, including one American citizen. You know what he said? Nothing. He ran away, which is exactly what he did when the troops were deployed to Iraq. "This man is a grade A coward," said Rogan O'Hanley. Walz seemed to acknowledge the controversy hours later when he made a post on X expressing sorrow for the victims' families and condemning Hamas. Quote, "The anguish of losing a child is something no family should have to endure. Gwen and I send our deepest condolences to the Goldberg Poland family after Hamas's murder of their son, Hirsch. Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization, and we condemn their continued atrocities against both Americans and Israelis in the strongest possible terms." Now, Hamas seems to suggest that 6 Israeli hostages were deliberately executed. Remaining could be killed if Israel gets too close. Hamas appeared to suggest that the 6 hostages found dead were deliberately executed because they were about to be rescued by Israeli forces, and that the others could suffer the same fate. Quote, "We say to everyone clearly that after the incident, new instructions were issued, assigned the guards of the prisoners regarding dealing with them in the occupation army approaching their place of detention," Hamas spokesperson told Axios. I don't know how Axios has that direct line. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. We're just getting started. I don't want to run too late because, as I said, we do have former Congressman Joe Sempolinski is going to be joining us in just a little bit. Keep your comments and your waves coming in. We're going to talk a little bit more about Hamas, a few things here about Kamala Harris. Harris is getting some criticism for, again, using, I don't know what you would call it, like a fake accent during her one of her rallies, one of her speeches. We're going to talk about that. Also, how she's preparing for the upcoming debate. Yes, the debate, about a week away? A week away. Yep, September 10th. We prepare for the debate. Do you think the debate will happen? I could still see an option, though they do claim that Harris is practicing, getting prepared, that it's going to be more, not on substance, but more on personal attacks against Trump is what we're being told. Also, we know that Trump has been practicing with Tulsi Gabbard, who did such a fantastic job in that debate in 2019, going after Harris. So we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to ask Joe Sempolinski what his thoughts on the debate are, because he's coming up in just a little bit. And we do have a couple of New York State issues if we have an opportunity. But let's take our first break. We are just getting started on this Tuesday edition of Frankly Speaking. I hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. Let me know what you did for fun. We can read it on the air if you'd like. And we're going to take that break, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more. Call now. 844-617-0440.
Hesselsen's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselsen's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselsen's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
We are proud to serve our country, to serve our local communities, to wear the uniform, to be a soldier, to serve abroad when and where duty calls. We are ready to stand with our brothers and sisters to defend, to serve, to fight. We're always ready, we're always there. We are the New York Army National Guard.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and
And welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio, and thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday morning edition. Now, Hamas vows to kill hostages at the risk of them being rescued, and Biden has now upped his pressure on Israel. Asked by a reporter Monday if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had done enough to secure a hostage deal, Biden gave a flat no, while claiming we're very close to proposing another hostage deal this week, and hope springs eternal. Hamas refused to accept the last ceasefire offer, even as Netanyahu was signaling some willingness to bend on the crucial question of the Philadelphia corridor. All right. Now up to about 7,000 rabid anti-Israel protesters, that's pro-Hamas protesters, stormed New York City on Labor Days, lighting flares and setting off smoke bombs. Up to 7,000 unruly anti-Israel protesters, including some proudly waving Hamas flags, stormed through the Big Apple on Labor Day, lighting flares and setting off smoke bombs as they marched towards the heart of the city. The chaotic demonstrators gathered at Union Square in Manhattan in the early afternoon and began their raucous march to Washington Square Park. There's photos that you can find online at the New York Post. Blue and red flares filled the air with the smoke as the group marched on. The crowd, which law enforcement sources said hit around 7,000 at one point, waved Hamas terrorist flags along with Palestinian, Syrian, Iranian, and Hezbollah banners, chanting "Free Palestine" and "Resistance is justified when people are occupied." Oh, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one. Hezbollah, well, you know all about that. We don't have to go into that. One protester tried to block TV cameras while others yelled at a news crew calling them a disgrace. A counter protester with an Israeli flag was berated by the crowd. A New Yorker, well, I don't want to go into each specific one, but 4 people were arrested, law enforcement sources have said. The mass protest is just the latest show of disorder by anti-Israel marchers since the Jewish state retaliated for the sneak attack on Israel by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. So again, proving the point that we've been making on the program, that it's not just on college campuses. It's just not a small group of college kids not knowing what they're protesting. It has spread like wildfire, now having 7,000 people in New York City. Flares, smoke bombs, Hamas flags. The Post editorial board asked the question, will Harris-Biden act to counter Iranian agents behind the anti-Israel campus protests? Now, school has started on many campuses, if not all at this point. And we have seen some instances, just like in our backyard in Cornell, where there was destruction, violence, all in the name of their anti-Israel, anti-Semitic beliefs. Well, as college begins a new school year, pro-Palestinian protesters, and we put that in quote, need to start asking who's really calling the shots. It may be agents of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Post's Isabel Vincent reported exclusively on Friday that Iran is funding anti-Israel pro-Hamas groups and campus protests via a network of activist groups whose name bear no signs of Tehran's ties. For instance, members of the Texas-based Rise Against Opposition, which downplays its link to Iran, reclaimed a student center at Houston University in April. Many pro-Palestinian groups also get funding directly or via the Radical Tides Foundation from the Maximum Difference Foundation, the U.S. family charity of an extended clan whose members back in Iran are tight with the family of Iran's former president. I'm not even going to try, and have worked with Iran's Revolutionary Guard. So, is the rest of the Harris-Biden administration asleep at the switch in the face of a Tehran-backed fifth column movement inside the United States? Seems so. The White House is striving to appease the protesters, with both Israel skeptical Representative Ro Khanna from California and the anti-Israel uncommitted national movement at the DNC claiming that Kamala Harris has expressed openness to restricting or ending aid to Israel. Harris-Biden have always been soft on Iran, but letting Tehran manipulate U.S. protests and then bending to the protesters is beyond appalling. Did you happen to catch over the weekend any of the interviews with Tom Cotton, J.D. Vance? Boy, the ABC, and I just mentioned this because it made me think of it, because ABC doing everything they can to defend Harris and Walz. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit. I'm running through a lot quickly this morning. We have a lot to catch up on since we had that extra day off for Labor Day. 2 U.S. Marines were ambushed and assaulted by a mob of Turkish nationalists. A mob of Turkish nationalists attacked U.S. Marines in western Turkey yesterday, resulting in the arrest of 15 people. The incident took place in Izmir. In a statement, the Izmir governor's office said the assailants belong to the Youth Union of Turkey, which is connected to the nationalist Vatan Party. The governor said that the victims, who were assigned to the USS Wasp, were physically attacked. The service members were identified as soldiers by authorities, but are U.S. Marines. Video posted to social media showed service members in civilian clothing yelling for help as they were restrained by a group of anti-American men. The footage also shows an attacker throwing a plastic bag onto a victim's head as the crowd chanted, "Yankee, go home." All right, so there's a couple of international updates. We're going to ask former Congressman Joe Sempolinski his opinions on what is happening with Hamas. We also have so many things here. I'm just looking at my time. So many things here about the Harris campaign, the Trump campaign, a couple of things about Biden. Did you see over the weekend Biden says that his great-grandfather was accused of being in a group of killer coal miners, and what was many considered a long-winded anecdote, and another part of his history that we just haven't heard before, just raises some questions. And as I said, we may have, well, I don't know. I have some other stories to get to show you about the media bias as well, which hopefully we'll be able to get to at some point this morning. We'll ask Joe about his thoughts about the media bias, and specifically when you watch these interviews, ABC directly. I'm not sure why a Republican would go there, and I think they should. I think you can't always just preach to the choir. But having said that, I mean, just outright nastiness to Tom Cotton. And lying, having to come back out and send a retraction because everybody seems to want to, these media outlets, these legacy media outlets, want to, if for lack of a better term, fact check the Republican guests live on the air. And it doesn't always work so good when they don't have all their information. We're going to talk about that and Kamala Harris and this new fake accent that people are talking about. All that and much more. We're just getting warmed up here, folks, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
It's time to stock up on your favorite New York wines at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines has the largest selection of Finger Lakes wines in the Southern Tier, all under one roof. Whether you're looking for Lakewood, Wagner, Wise, or Haslett 1852 Vineyards, GCP Discount Liquors and Wines is your convenient one-stop shop for these great wineries and more, all at the area's lowest prices. Shop GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Electric today. The crowd, the atmosphere, this is what makes it special. The student body are out of their mind. You want a piece of us? This is what we do. Here we go. Touchdown. Wow. Sensational.
Big noon kickoff, Saturdays on Fox.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us here on Frankly Speaking. Another quick reminder that you may not had on your radar, but Hunter Biden's tax evasion trial begins this Thursday in Los Angeles. So we'll be talking about that extensively on Thursday and Friday. So as mentioned, Vice President Kamala Harris was accused Monday of using a fake accent in her remarks to teachers unions in Michigan. Teacher union members, in Michigan. Harris, speaking at a Detroit high school, appeared to alter her tone in moments where she became particularly animated and when interacting with supporters in the crowd. At one point, she said, "You may not be a union member, but you better thank a union member for the 5-day work week. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time." The Trump campaign noted that Harris delivered a very similar line hours later during a speech to union workers in Pittsburgh in which the apparent accent wasn't present. "Let's see if you can spot the difference," said the Trump campaign, with clips of both speeches. In another viral moment, Harris, after being interrupted by a supporter, responded, "Let's just get through the next 64 days. How about that?" and followed up with a fist bump motion. Some calling it cringy, uncomfortable. Matt Whitlock, a Republican communications strategist, argued that all of the politics is a performance to Kamala Harris. She changes fake accents like she changes policy positions and political personas. Today, she's talking in a fake Southern accent, pretending to be a moderate. Next week, she'll be back to a San Francisco liberal. She is mocking Southern folks and pandering for votes, argued comedian Terrence Williams. Yes, calling the new accent very cringe-worthy. This is her 7th new accent in 4 weeks, said Trump's senior advisor, Stephen Miller. She has literally never used this accent before. She grew up in Canada. Phoniest politician in all of politics. There are countless traits that I despise in humans, few as much as being inauthentic. All of politics is a performance to Kamala Harris, as I mentioned. All right. Now, she also vowed to end union busting. And Joe Biden at that rally claimed that Harris had the moral compass of a saint. We fight for a future where every worker has the freedom to organize, and we pass the Protecting the Right to Organize Act and end union busting once and for all. The vice president said. Harris argued that Trump is trying to pull us backward, including back to a time before workers had the freedom to organize. She charged that Trump, quote, blocked overtime benefits for millions of workers, opposed efforts to raise the minimum wage, and appointed union busters on the National Labor Relations Board, while making the case that Pennsylvania workers should vote for her in November. The latest Real Clear Politics average poll shows Harris with a 0.5 percentage point edge over Trump in the Keystone State, 47.7 to 47.2. So to all of our Pennsylvania viewers out there, what are your thoughts on the Harris campaign? Now, at this rally, President Biden, yes, still president, said she has a backbone like a ramrod. She has a moral compass of a saint. And he argued that tapping Harris to be his VP was the single best decision of his presidency. And he told union members that they wouldn't regret casting a ballot for his number 2. The woman knows what she's doing. Folks, I promise you, if you elect Kamala Harris, it'll be the best decision you've ever made. And it's got to be awkward because, you know, when he's taking the stage, they chant, "Thank you, Joe." It's just got to be kind of awkward knowing that those people, I guess, didn't want him in there. That they wanted Harris instead. It's just got to be awkward for a guy who has served in the Senate and in vice presidential role and now presidential role for so long. But we can talk about that. And we know Harris never receiving a single vote. Now, Charles Gasparino had a good point. He brought this to my attention on, I want to say I saw this Saturday, so you may have read this. As Donald Trump and Kamala Harris debate over how many presidential debates they'll have before Election Day, they may soon meet face-to-face in a more unusual venue, and that is the annual Al Smith Dinner in New York City. The event, in its 79th year, begins with Timothy Cardinal Dolan of the New York Archdiocese giving some opening remarks. Now, if you have not watched this, the Trump-Hillary Al Smith Dinner was brutal. You know, they dip into politics a little bit, but Trump went all in. People from finance, politics, and government attend to raise money for Catholic charities. The dress code is formal, but that's usually just about as serious as it gets. Jokes are a mainstay, particularly in presidential years, when the candidates are invited as headliners, throw zingers at each other, and leave as frenemies, if you will. It's almost like a roast. That all changed when Donald Trump burst on the political scene in 2016, sharp elbows and all. It is why the betting among attendees that I spoke to, this is Charles Gasparino, says that while Trump will show, the press-shy Harris will find some excuse to skip the event, like coming down with a cold or a necessary campaign stop somewhere in deep blue America. They think she would find anything to relieve herself of the trauma of going toe-to-toe with her haymaker challenger. If Harris ducks, it wouldn't be the first time she sought to avoid confrontation. Her softball interview with CNN was her first, and here's the point. I know Ken made this last week, and I'm tending to agree. First and maybe only formal Q&A since being anointed as the Democrat nominee after sleepy Joe Biden's withdrawal over a month ago. She has agreed, albeit tentatively, to just one formal debate with Trump, and we've already seen some back and forth where they tried to change the rules. There isn't anything formal about the Al Smith dinner, but with Trump, it could turn perilous for Harris and upend a tight presidential race, given her penchant for odd remarks as well as that off-putting cackle, which there would be a lot of jokes. I mean, it definitely didn't play in Hillary Clinton's favor to go to the Al Smith dinner. Recall, with his Democratic opponent Hillary Clinton seated just a few feet from him, Trump took to the dais to riff on the Clinton email server controversy, or in his words, quote, "I wasn't really sure if Hillary is going to be here tonight because I guess you didn't send her invitation by email. Or maybe you did and she just found out about it on the wonder of WikiLeaks." Ouch. So I don't, and I mean, Hillary gave it to Trump too. I mean, I got to be honest, I like the roast format. It's kind of more light than some of the political rallies. I don't see, and I'm posing the question to you, do you think Kamala Harris will attend the Al Smith dinner? Or will she avoid it like she's avoiding press conferences, avoiding interviews? I'm still not totally convinced that she's going to go to the debate. I think there's plenty of opportunities for her to find an excuse and say that she will not be able to attend a debate. Because right now, and we see it every day in the news, the media is very complacent. They're very happy with letting Harris just cross the finish line. Just wind down the clock and let her cross the finish line. Not really having to explain her policies, explain her flip-flopping. As a matter of fact, it was on MSNBC. Political contributor Jason Johnson said that only the media elite, not voters, care if the Democratic presidential nominee Harris does interviews. So the group that had no say in the selection of Harris could not vote or not vote for Harris, could never really, again, have any say in how this was all shaping up. Apparently, according to MSNBC, it's only the media elites that care if she does an interview or not. It has nothing to do with voters who really, it could be argued, don't know about her. There was no primary. There was no debate in the primary. So know very little about Harris. What we do know, she's flip-flopped on, supposedly. Johnson said, I've always thought the importance of that interview, to be perfectly candid, was more for the media elites than what actual voters care about. The voters are hearing what they want to hear from Harris because every time she and Waltz are on the air, the ratings skyrocket. They're filling up stadiums, and that's not just about ego. That's about men and women, young people, old people, all races, all colors and creeds saying, hey, I am interested. And once somebody's interested, selling them on your policy is much, much easier. I think that's going to be interesting going forward is what happens when Harris does say a press conference with a bunch of random questions. I know she'll be fine, obviously, because she's been sitting vice president of the United States. As she moves from the sort of insurgent new candidate into the traditional candidate over the last 8 to 9 weeks, it's going to be very interesting to see how that may change, how specific her policies and how specifically her policy presentations get, even as they're still building at rallies, registering voters, and quite frankly, recently expanding the electoral map if they think they can win it with. So it's not the voter that cares about their potential president. It's only the media elite. Interesting. What are your thoughts? I mean, if nothing else, it just shows you the media bias, that they're not demanding interviews, not demanding press conferences. Fine with just the one sit-down interview at a friendly network with a friendly interviewer, I should say. It's so interesting to watch what J.D. Vance had to go through, what Tom Cotton had to go through this weekend, and then see how Harris and Walz were treated. Very interesting. So again, voters don't care about Harris doing interviews, according to MSNBC. That's how they're going to let her wear out the clock. Run out the clock, folks. All right, we got to take another short break. Stay with us. Some waves coming in. Oh, wow. A lot of waves, a lot of comments. So stay with us. We'll get to those when we come back. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Now there's a product that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it for you. Introducing the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your ingredients and walking away and coming back to meals that cook up to 60% faster. No more stirring food. StirMax technology automatically rotates the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise, so it stirs it for you. Powerful enough to even shred food. Then the 7.5 quart pot goes right to the table to serve. With a premium ceramic coating, nothing sticks. And it's dishwasher safe. Now you can try the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. You also get the steamer and rice basket for healthy meals, StirMax serving spoon that snaps in place for easy serving, and $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order all absolutely free. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order now.
The NFL is back on Fox for a season like no other.
It all kicks off with a huge Week 1 doubleheader. First, Justin Jefferson and the Vikings take on the Giants.
What a throw!
Then Tom Brady makes his debut in the booth for America's Game of the Week as Dak leads the boys.
Holy cow!
Against Watson and the Browns.
For the touchdown!
It all kicks off September 8th on Fox, home of Super Bowl 59.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This is Frankly Speaking. Thank you so much for joining us. A comment from a viewer. Harris will skip it. Without a teleprompter, she literally becomes illiterate. I assume you mean the debate. I don't think she'll be at the debate either. And so far, the few times she's had to ad-lib or talk off the cuff, it is very reminiscent of the word salads that Harris is known for. Even in that interview with CNN, if you recall, saying something about the timeline or the deadline based on time was one of her statements. Now, according to Yahoo News, Harris is not going to focus during the debate on substance or policy, but more on, quote unquote, poking the bear. Harris's team views the optics of her face-off with the former president as crucial, according to sources close to the vice president, one of whom told NBC News her campaign wants to remind people of what it was like during the Donald Trump years. Of the issues she is likely to address, Harris is expected to drill the former president on his role in Republicans backing out of a bipartisan border bill in February. The Democrat presidential nominee's other goals reportedly include articulating how she thinks her presidency would serve everyday Americans and staying focused amidst what are sure to be personalized attacks. Remaining unfazed, the source says, is critical because Harris is a real person. Harris and Trump will have never formally met, and they are set for a primetime face-off next Tuesday. It will be held at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia and hosted by ABC. The vice president has hunkered down to prepare for the debate with a small group of advisors, according to the New York Times. She participated in at least 2 mock debates last month. Her opponent is being played by Philip Raines, who reportedly dons an oversized suit, shoes with a 3-inch lift, and a long tie to get into character. Sorry, a little tongue-tied this Tuesday morning. Raines also played a Trump stand-in for Hillary Clinton, for whom he worked as a senior advisor during the 2016 election cycle. Trump, on the other hand, quote, does not need traditional debate prep. His national press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, said, President Trump has proven to be one of the best debaters in political history, as evidenced by his knockout blow to Joe Biden. He has a command of the issue, frequently sits down for interviews, and takes questions from hostile news media almost every day. Some said, and this is what's going to be interesting, if the debate goes off, Trump is not good when attacked. So if Harris, quote unquote, pokes the bear, as it says there, will Trump be able to rein himself in? Will he get very angry? And remember, if he talks over her, she wants, there's not the mics, but she wants to have that moment, I'm speaking, that like she had with Vice President Pence at the time, so she's looking to have that kind of knockout blow during this debate. But she's going to focus on Trump rather than substance during the debate. That's how NBC reported it. In that sense, the source said it's going to be less about substance and more about showcasing Harris as a woman who isn't scared and isn't going to cower and who is standing up to Trump and holding him accountable. Harris will likely try to attack Trump over so-called bipartisan pro-migration border bill. Harris did so during an interview on Thursday on CNN. So it's going to be interesting. Again, it's being held on September 10th, and we're going to talk to former Congressman Joe Sempolinski about it when he joins us, I believe, in the next hour. He might be there a little bit early. He sometimes is, so you may want to stay tuned. By the way, I want to say hi to my friends that I met at the New York State Fair I got recognized at the New York State Fair. Thank you so much for coming over. It works here in Corning. They both work here in Corning. It was very nice of you to say hi. We went with my brother to the Great New York State Fair, not yesterday, or what was it, Monday or Sunday, I should say, where the New York State Fair was shut down because of thoughts of, and I don't think they ever proved it, but thoughts of gunfire being heard. But anyway, thank you to those viewers that stopped by and said hi. All right. Trump's nephew told Kamala Harris to buckle your seatbelt because it's going to get more nasty. What do you think is happening in this country right now? This was on MSNBC's Deadline, talking with Fred Trump III. I think there's a fraying. Look, he had his lockstep on his MAGA base. I've been saying lately, I never watched The Apprentice, that you're fired, but he's looking tired. He's tired. He has this real solid base who's amped up. He has to keep ahead of those people to make it. He can't dance around and play nice. So that's why I caution the Harris campaign, buckle your seatbelts because it's going to get more nasty than you could even imagine. The enthusiasm at the convention was great. I have all the respect in the world for Joe Biden. I don't think it would have been the same show. So Wallace said, well, what do you think he's capable of, meaning Trump? What do you think he should or will he be weary of? Trump said, well, besides, and this is, again, Fred Trump III, well, besides personal insults, which he brushed back eloquently and smartly last week, he will do anything to stay in power. And as I call them, the merry band of miscreants surrounding him will do whatever because they don't have him. I don't know what they got. If they don't have him, I don't know what they've got. So buckle up. Obviously not a Trump supporter, but buckle up. It is going to get nasty before it gets better, according to Fred Trump III. All right, we got to take another short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon. Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you again for joining us. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll be talking with former Congressman Joe Semplinsky, so you will not want to miss that. Now, J.B. Pritzker, who has been a surrogate for Harris, he's the Democrat Illinois governor, he declared Monday that nobody should underestimate former President Trump's ability to beat Harris in their upcoming high-stakes debate. He has won a couple of debates that he did. Certainly, people would say that he won the debate against President Biden a couple of months ago. And despite Harris being a tremendous person with great capability, she should be cautious on stage with the former president. He saw that he won the debate against Hillary Clinton when he ran the first time. He's not to be underestimated. We shouldn't be thinking that somehow Kamala has a greater ability to win a debate than Donald Trump. They're going to come in as a significant rivals with very, very different points of view. Pritzker explained that one of Harris's keys to victory in the showdown will be conveying her message without getting flummoxed. Is that how you say that? By Trump. Harris and Trump have scheduled a set, as we know, September 10th for that debate. Veteran pollster Frank Luntz agreed on CNN that the debate will be everything for voters when the voters see side by side the two candidates and they listen to what they say, not just in the answers, it's the body language. Is there contempt? Does someone hold their arms? Do they look at the individual when they're speaking? Do they seem presidential in their approach? The publisher and political strategist suggested that voters would be interested to see Trump if he can keep quiet and listen to a response, and if Harris can keep open-minded and willing to take in information. I don't think, well, I'm not sure. I'm still not convinced, 100% convinced that there will be debate. I know I predicted wrongly last time, but I was kind of right because Biden shouldn't have done that debate in hindsight. I think most people would agree to that. Then, I don't know. I mean, if Trump... Well, what are your thoughts? Would you rather see a Trump that goes all out with the names and the kind of the stalking around the stage, or would you rather see a more refined Trump that we saw against Biden? Now, with Biden, it was interesting because the whole time Trump kept, there's a couple little things he said, but kept very polite. It's almost as if he saw Biden crumbling up on stage, collapsing up on stage, and just let him be himself. Will Trump be disciplined in this debate? Let Harris maybe get some of those word salads, say some confusing things? Because this may be the only case the voters have, the only example the voters have to see where Harris stands on issues, to find out more about Harris. Because unless you're going to a rally, which that's their argument for not doing press, they're going directly to the people with these rallies. So it's kind of difficult to see the rallies. And there's no, obviously, off-the-cuff remarks, everything teleprompted. So to that viewer's point, without a teleprompter, he doesn't think she'll do it. Will there finally be pushback if she doesn't do it? I don't think so. I think the media is just happy, counting down the days, running out the clock. Here's a comment from a viewer. I want to see Donald Trump pretend to be Ronald Reagan. That's what I want to see. Okay, fair. You know, I saw such a bias review of that new Reagan movie. So much anger and rewriting of history. A worshipful biopic of the 40th president, Reagan, is historical hooey and a slog, too. Has anybody seen it? I have not seen it yet. I really look forward to seeing Reagan. It stars Dennis Quaid. I'm sure you've undoubtedly seen the ads for it. I would like to get your take if you did happen to see it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I just didn't have an opportunity this weekend. All right, let's take another short break. Get ready here for former Congressman Joe Sempolinski, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Should be electric today. The crowd, the atmosphere, this is what makes it special. The student body are out of their mind. You want a piece of us?
This is what we do. Here we go. Touchdown. Wow.
Sensational.
Big noon kickoff, Saturdays on Fox.
And something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Here's some comments from viewers. If you were running Harris's campaign, would you want her to debate the person that ended Biden's political career? They will make it look like Trump refused to debate her. The media will not only support that, but will do everything to convince people of it. That's a very good point. That the media, of course, would try to spin it to make it look like it's Trump's fault. Another comment, we need both candidates to go on Frankly Speaking separately. Yes, of course, open invitation. Trump still owes you an interview. Yes, so I did interview Trump once back in 2016, and he said he would come back on once he got settled in as president, and I think he said give it a couple years, something like that. I can't remember exactly how long, and I have not heard from him, so we'll keep an eye open. But I did interview him once before, and I have obviously not interviewed Harris. Now, Meet the Press host Kristen Welker. This is how they're going to protect Harris. Falsely claims Kamala Harris met with the Gold Star families of the troops killed in Afghanistan. Walker made the comments as she interviewed Senator Tom Cotton. What a confrontational interview. Tom Cotton has been doing a great job. If you have not seen that, I would highly recommend you watch that interview. Cotton noted that Harris, the Democratic nominee for the presidency, had not yet met with the kin of the 13 service members who were killed when a suicide bomber detonated an explosive device at an entry point to the Kabul airport during the chaotic evacuation on August 26, 2021. The blast killed 183 people and wounded at least 150, among them U.S. and Afghan personnel, as well as Afghan civilians seeking to escape aboard U.S. military planes. The Arkansas senator drew a contrast between Harris and Trump, who was invited by the families to appear alongside them at Arlington National Cemetery. And if you weren't paying attention over the weekend, that was the major story. As so many people have said, it's a manufactured story, but that is what the media has been pushing for the last, week? Over a week. Trump's appearance at the wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington, which included a photo of the former president smiling and giving a thumbs up just feet from the fallen soldier's tombstone, prompted Harris and other Democrats to accuse him of using the hallowed space for a campaign event, which is forbidden by federal law. When Welker brought up the Democrats' claim, Cotton pushed back, saying the Gold Star families, wanted President Trump there. They wanted to take those photos. You know who the families also invited? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Where were they? Joe Biden was sitting on the beach. Kamala Harris was sitting in her mansion in Washington, D.C. She was 4 miles away, 10 minutes. She could have gone to the cemetery and honored the sacrifice of those young men and women, but she hasn't. She never has spoken to them or taken a meeting with them. Welker then spoke in defense of Harris, which only happens, this fact-checking live only happens against Republicans, right? Telling Cotton, while they did meet with them during the dignified transfer, they were there with them at the dignified transfer. Fact checkers noted that Harris was not present at the dignified transfer of the fallen service members, which took place at Dover Air Force Base on August 29, 2021. NBC finally had to admit it was an error. Posting on X on our broadcast this morning, we incorrectly applied that both President Biden and Vice President Harris attended the dignified transfer of 13 American service members killed during the Afghanistan withdrawal. Biden was in attendance, but Harris was not. But you can see when you watch those interviews, you can see how they are trying to defend Harris at any turn, protect her, let her wear out the clock before November. I mean, what did she say? 63 days. That's all they have to do. They protected Biden for 3.5 years. You don't think they can protect her, excuse me, I'm sorry, looking at comments there, protect her for 2 months? It is unbelievable how fast this is going. But again, asking the question to you, do you think there'll be a debate? I think it's a fair question. It doesn't seem like Harris wants it that bad, but they say that she is practicing, not really the substance, but practicing her attacks on the former president. Will that get under Trump's skin? How will he react? Will he be more disciplined as he was in the debate against Biden? All right, so we've got some comments coming in, some waves coming in. Yes, I hope I should have sent him a reminder, but I think we're good. Former Congressman Joe Sempolinski will be our guest, I guess, in the 7 o'clock hour. So we look forward to that. Stay with us. We'll read your comments when we come back. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we're going through quite a few things quickly here. Hour #1 already in the books. It's amazing. Here's a comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. I would like Donald Trump to be Ronald Reagan and be calm and relaxed, just like during the town hall with Tulsi Gabbard. Kamala Harris is not presidential. Her record proves she has no idea how to fix the problems her and Biden created. Thank you very much. We've got to take a short break, so stay with us. I'm just trying to get some things set up behind the scenes because we do have former Congressman Joe Sempolinski joining us in just a little bit. I'm going to text him, make sure we're still on track. We also have a lot to talk about here when it comes to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris's campaign. They rallied together over the weekend. A lot here about Trump as well. I don't know how much we'll be able to get to. Oh, Piers Morgan has an interesting piece as well this morning. George Clooney's weasel words can't hide his wolf-like killing of Biden's career. All right, there we go. Let's take that break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Hi, I'm Suzanne. Welcome to Pangea Global Tea House.
Pangea Global Tea House offers comfort foods of the world. Over 50 teas, a sampling of cuisine from over 10 countries. Globally inspired cuisine and striving to give you an ultimate experience. Come in and try the frankly delicious Turkey Club special for just $20, including your beverage of choice. Pangea Global Tea House. Yet a really good tea house bringing you the flavors of the world, offering something for everyone.
Introduce brand new kitchen appliance that does all the work for you. A hassle-free solution that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it in one pot that you can set, then forget about, and come back to delicious, perfectly prepared meals that cook up to 60% faster without having to do a thing, except enjoy a little extra free time. From the trusted brand Power Excel, there's the StirMax Multi-Cooker, the revolutionary new countertop appliance with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your favorite ingredients and walking away. No more stirring food. StirMax is the one-pot solution that does everything for you. The secret is the unique pot shape and groundbreaking StirMax technology that's automatically programmed to rotate the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise to help prevent jams and food from burning while infusing flavor. Powerful enough to even shred food. With large 7.5 quart capacity and lightweight, attractive design, the entire pan goes right to the table. StirMax features 9 different cooking functions: saute, slow cook stews or soups, keep warm, steam and boil, cook risotto or rice. Plus, the multi-step smart presets, StirMax or BraiseMax, that sears and sautés food before automatically switching to simmer. With premium ceramic coating that's BPA, PFOA, and PTFE free, scratch-proof, and won't ever stick. Then the entire pan goes right into the dishwasher. Now, you can try the Power Excel StirMax multi-cooker with tempered glass lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. But it gets even better. You also get the entire bonus package absolutely free. You get the steamer and rice basket. For fresh, healthy meals, the StirMax serving spoon and ladle. It snaps right on top of your StirMax, plus $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order next business day, absolutely free. Plus, every StirMax comes with a 1-year ironclad VIP protection plan and a 90-day money-back guarantee. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aikman. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio this morning, we have former Congressman Joe Semplinsky. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Frank.
It's good to see you. It's Labor Day.
It's crisp in the air.
Yeah, after Labor Day.
I got up this morning to get in the car to drive here, and there was a little bit of mist.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful morning. I felt like football.
I know. Where did it go?
Yeah, life moves fast.
Yeah. And Labor Day is kind of the unofficial kickoff of some of the local campaigns. The
right.
presidential is.
Have they been going already?
Have there
been twists and turns?
I don't even know.
It's going to be a history
How
book
is this
one, no matter what happens.
The weirdest election cycle ever for president, but also it's such a shortened. I mean, that's what makes me so nervous that Harris basically just has to run down the clock.
She got the short version, and this is very unusual in modern times. I mean, you mentioned Labor Day, and you're right. It's the traditional end of the summer, sort of culturally, which kids are going back to school. My kids are going back to school this week, and it's also traditionally sort of the start of the political season.
Yeah.
As people transition out of that vacation mode, they start sort of paying attention, saying, hey, what's on the ballot this year? What's going on? Now, of course, in modern times, the presidential election sort of lasts, at least a
couple
year,
years,
not more, right? It sort of starts when the midterms end, that sort of thing. But because of the switcheroo, Biden did all the preliminaries for the Democrats, and now, Harris will not only be the first nominee who hasn't received a vote in 60 years or whatever it is, almost 60 years, but she will also have sort of the shortest campaign because of that timeline. And also it wasn't even sort of at the beginning of the summer they did the switcheroo.
Right.
It was pretty late. So we're talking about a truncated campaign. I think there is, and as you said, probably some advantages to that from a vetting process.
Sure.
And she's certainly trying to maximize those, running out the clock. I don't know if you saw, I saw the clip on social media of her getting out of her car and on her plane, and she's got her headphones in, and she's literally doing I'm on my headphones. I don't want to talk to the whoever's with me and have me the press. So it's prevent defense, I think, for the National Democratic ticket.
And the media seems to be okay with that. I mean,
of course
think about it. If you're in the media, your job is to get an interview with Harris, right? I would have an interview with Harris.
Sure.
But they just seem fine with it. MSNBC said just yesterday, I think it was yesterday, saying it's not, the voters don't care about an interview.
Yeah, all of a sudden voters don't care about interview. Voters don't care about policy positions. She, flippity flops on every position she's ever taken, and nobody says anything about it. Donald Trump can denounce positions he never held, and yet, I heard on the, I was driving in today, and I was listening to the radio, and somebody was talking about Project 2025, which again he didn't write. It's never his position. Whereas Kamala Harris has had every position on every issue, for what's convenient on several major issues. So the press. You talk about this is a sort of historic election cycle, and we get caught up in the moment of what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow, what have you. But if you want to look at the big picture, I think one of the historical things coming out of this is going to be a further degradation of the prestige of the mainstream media in the average American's mindset. You could make an argument very strongly they covered for Joe Biden when he was completely incapable of serving for another 5 years, 4.5 years.
Still propping him up. If the polls weren't bad for him, he would still be there.
If they hadn't had that debate, he'd be able to nominate right now.
Yeah.
So you have that, and then right back with that, where you have Harris, where suddenly it's normal to somehow run a 1904, I'm sitting on my front porch, campaign. She's, the Vice President of the United States in 2024.
Yeah.
She's not William McKinley sitting on a porch in Ohio.
Right.
And suddenly they're cool with that. Mm-hmm. And that's never been the case in dealing with any type of media, whether that is national, local, regional. They want to get a story. They want to ask tough questions. And as long as they're fair questions, I don't have a problem with tough questions.
Right.
But all of a sudden that doesn't apply to the Democratic nominee for the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. And her one interview she does is taped. By the way, we don't edit. Are we live right now?
We are live. Yes.
Okay, all right, we're live. So I could say anything.
Yeah. Please don't.
Right. That's right. We'll try and keep
I do want to have a job.
Yeah, I understand. We'll keep it for the family-friendly family show. But it's taped, edited. She has her buddy with her, running mate, which was weird.
Yeah.
So everything's with kid gloves. And the idea to even do that interview was like some major campaign decision.
Can you imagine? We spent the whole morning talking about that interview. So one interview, not because she did something wrong or whatever, just
the
one interview.
You were my communications director when I was in college.
Right.
I remember one day we did 3 interviews in a morning.
Yeah.
And we didn't think about it. We hit every station in the Elmira market. We just boop, boop, boop. And
that's what
just because it's what you do.
Yeah.
You're a public official. You have to go talk to the public, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal. It's not, you didn't have like a summit to determine, when are we going to do an interview with Big Fox or whatever. You just do it.
Yeah.
And that's somebody who was very briefly in Congress as opposed to somebody running for the presidency of the United States.
And they've never received a vote, too.
Right,
that's why
I got elected.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we have to learn about her policies, because not only what little we know about her policies are all flip-flops, and boy, she sounds a lot like Trump sometimes.
She's been doing all sorts of goofy stuff with her positions. And so what is sort of distressing about it is how quickly the people on the left say something that's normal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's how. Oh,
she didn't give an interview for one. Because they kept saying, well, she's going to do one before the end of the month. One
before the end of the month. You should be talking about one before breakfast.
Right, exactly.
Right. And how many arrests are you going to do that
And they've already
day?
accepted the fact that she's not going to do one before the debate.
Right.
And boy, she's on that same kind of debate prep that Biden was, huh? 2 weeks.
Biden prepped a long time for a debate that bad. That's a whole. That's another historical thing we'll be talking about. If you're talking about 50 years from now, and you're saying, well, what was important about 2024? I think there's going to be several things, and we won't know them until we see what happens with whatever the subsequent administration is. But a couple of them, I think we will know is, the mainstream media just has, been very bad. Again, we're going to keep it family friendly. And then the significance of that debate, which was so radically unprecedented.
Yeah. And I know we talked about this last time you were on the show, Joe, but you and I are political kind of wonky people. And we've watched debates our whole lives for a moment like that, and never really had a moment like that.
I never expected a moment like that.
No.
I couldn't believe it. No. To have something be that bad that quickly and that significant to the outcome of the race, there have been debates that have been significant in the past, but they're usually, bumping the polls 3 or 4 or 5 points. They don't cause the end of a candidacy, the end of one of the longest political careers in American history, because he was exposed. There is no man behind the curtain, apparently, as far as the president.
So do you think, Harris has, and this is not telling tales out of school, Harris has that history of the word salads everybody talks about. Do you think she's nervous about this upcoming debate? I don't want to sound conspiratorial. I'm not positive it'll end up happening. I only say that because, she's already changed some rules. And if the media's going to let her get away with never really being exposed, why wouldn't she keep doing that? Why?
Oh, absolutely. And I think a big part of it is what you said at the outset, which is the short period of time.
Yeah.
Where right now we're about 2 months from the election as we're speaking right now.
Yeah.
Almost exactly. And you're saying, I can sort of run out 2 months.
Yeah.
Because each day that goes by is a pretty big chunk of, 60 days or whatever we're at. And so there is that temptation, to say, all right, I'm up a field goal. Let's try and run the clock out. Well, it's a poor decision. I just from all partisanship aside, what is smart strategically for her to do? You're running for president.
Right.
You can't hide. You're not going to be able to hide for that long. It is, no matter how complicit the media is, it's too diversified a media environment to get away with that now. So you have why not just embrace it?
Yeah.
And what's if you can't handle if deciding to do an interview with a very friendly reporter on tape,
I know,
with you dictating all the terms is a major campaign decision, maybe you shouldn't be running for president of the United States, and maybe everybody was right about you that you're just not ready for this.
Yeah.
You're not. She just may not be built for this.
No, and you kind of see that even with that pre-taped interview where she gives with a deadline based on time. Like those kind of the weird statements, they're in radio they were called crutch words, like where you have to have certain words that your mind just makes you say sometimes.
Right.
But other than a teleprompter,
are you unburdened by what has been?
Yeah, well, that is the weirdest.
I think she said it again, like last night, over the weekend. Yeah,
she loves that.
She leans on that. Yeah,
but it's very frustrating. And then you watch something like Tom Cotton or JD Vance and those great interviews they've been doing, and that, for lack of a better word, fact checking in the middle of it, interrupting, saying no, that's wrong. ABC had to release an apology because they said that Harris did meet with the Gold Star families when she didn't.
Right.
But they've got to do that live fact check where they're just trying to disrupt Vance or Cotton or whoever it is.
Yeah, I saw Cotton where they were trying to do that to him,
and
the fact check was, I remember in the correct interview, was just incorrect.
Yeah,
like they didn't know anymore what they were talking about. But I get it. It's if you are somebody who is in public life, you're used to giving interviews.
Yeah.
I remember I was doing a town hall meeting in Chautauqua County, and they wanted to interview me about the town hall meeting.
Yeah.
And so we did an interview about the town hall meeting and what the folks had said. And then they're like, hey, can we switch positions so there's a different background? Because we want to have we have other things we want to talk to you about, and we're going to run it a couple days later.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I now I'm facing the sky instead of facing the building. And they asked me some more questions about stuff they were going to run later in the day. I didn't know what they were going to ask me.
No.
But I'm like, okay, whatever. You guys do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And there's I think an authenticity that people respect when you're willing to do that, even with, I didn't know if it was going to be a hostile question or a positive question or what have you. Apparently for the Harris campaign, there would have to been 2 weeks of discussion as to whether to do that. It's really absurd. And again, what is frustrating and scary is, all of a sudden a big chunk of the population, and again, an industry that is built on getting interviews and supposedly getting facts and holding people accountable. And there's a reason it's in the Constitution. It's a guardrail on a democratic republic. Suddenly they're cool with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, and it's very frustrating, and it's dangerous for the future of the republic.
And I know we talked about this in the past. I brought it up since this has all been going on since last time you were on. But you were giving press calls right up into the last hours of your time in Congress. And what's interesting about those, for someone that doesn't know what a press call is, you had no clue what the questions were going to be.
I didn't know who was going to ask.
No.
I didn't know what they were going to ask. This is a good insight. It's sort of inside baseball. This is how we handle it.
Yeah.
And I know how some other members have handled it, which is we would have a topic for the week.
Mm-hmm.
We would open an open conference call. Be on a conference call platform. It wasn't face to face usually. Any member of the media could call in. Mm-hmm. I would present what I wanted to talk about that week, and maybe issue of the day, some activity we had done in the district or in Washington D.C. Something that we wanted to talk about, that we wanted to push out so the public would know about it. And I would talk for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes about it, whatever.
Crazy.
And then we would open up to questions, and they could ask about what I wanted them to ask about, which is what I presented. And sometimes, sometimes they did, but more often they're going to have something that they saw that has gone on. They want my commentary on it, some local thing that's happened. What is our office doing about it? Could have been literally anything.
That's why it was terrifying.
And
for me,
and I have to be ready to handle that, because that's the job.
That's your job.
The job is to handle issues that come before the public, whether you're a member of Congress or the president or a senator or a governor or whatever it is. And again, the reason we're emphasizing this is because I'm not terribly important, right? I'm just, I was a guy who was in
23rd
Congress,
congressional district,
representing one congressional district for a very short period of time. And these are basics. So it's like if you saw somebody playing in the Super Bowl, and they didn't know how to block or tackle.
Right.
Well, that's what they teach you in Pee Wee.
Right.
If you can't handle a press interview
with friendly people,
that you sort of know what they're going to ask you, because you sort of know where it's going. If you can't handle that, you ain't ready for the show.
Yeah, how do you handle Putin? How do you handle Xi Jinping? Because that's what makes it, I think, so frustrating, because she knows, so I always say in this program, a Democrat could never be a Republican for a day.
Right.
Because if you look at where she would go, it would be nothing but friendly. It'd be, hey, what's your favorite ice cream? You know, we've seen those historically. It would not be Tom Cotton with his back against the wall being yelled at, or J.D. Vance. And she's still not.
I remember one of our last ones, we were talking about our biggest legislative accomplishment, which was a disability bill. We were able to be the lead Republican sponsor on to get passed. And we talked about that. And most of the press want to talk about that. But one of them wanted to only talk about a particular member from New York, who's you remember now, Mr. Santos, whose scandal had just broken that week, and that he wanted to pin me down on that. And he didn't care about disability issues. He didn't care about this, and that would never happen to a Democrat.
Never,
not in a million years.
Every question would have been about what they wanted the topic to be.
That's right.
And you're not going to get any pushback.
And frankly, that reporter had every right to ask that question.
Yeah.
That was a legitimate question. It was about a major issue that was going on in the New York congressional delegation. It was not a gotcha question. It was a legitimate question.
It was a fair question.
But it's not the type of tough, fair question that you're going to have Dana Bash giving Walz and Harris while they're holding hands and huddling there, worried about what the question is going to be. You're not going to get any type of negativity. And you're right. Your average Democrat could not handle the way that a Republican is treated by the mainstream media.
No, and that's why it was so weird to watch when Biden was being pushed out, because it was something we as Republicans have never really experienced at that level, especially a Democrat president specifically, but even at any level. You don't see the media going after other Democrats and saying, do you support him, do you not?
That's right.
It was remarkable.
Everybody sort of gets a little bit of a pass as opposed to the live fact checks that Mr. Cotton. That's a perfect example of what we're talking about.
It's just watch that video and ask yourself, would that ever be, I don't know, Walz? Would it ever be and J.D. Vance? I know there was some criticism of him at first. I'm running late. I got to take a break, but he has been great with the media lately.
He's found his feet a little bit.
I think so too,
especially in that arena, which is good. And I think the vice president may learn this the hard way. It is something that you learn through experience.
Yeah.
Like you can't just walk in and do it. You have to do it and do it and do it and do it. And you have to stumble a little bit.
Yeah.
And when you're at this level, when you stumble, everybody sees it. But that's how you get better at anything is you do more of it. You don't hide.
Yeah.
Because she's setting herself up where
I think so.
She'll do something really stupid and she won't be ready for some question, or some goofy thing will happen, and she doesn't have the reps in to perform at that level.
That's why the debate is so important.
I agree.
And I'm not trying to set the bar low like
agree.
we always do.
Yeah.
But if she has one of those moments where she laughs too long or words salad or whatever the case may be, when no one's had a chance to see her, because let's face it,
going to be the only thing a lot of people know about her.
We know her, but we pay attention to politics.
Right.
I bet you if you polled people before, they're not going to know a lot of Harris.
That's right.
She was a pretty quiet VP.
That's right.
So we got to take our first break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us.
Hustleton's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hustleton's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hustleton today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hustleton's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustleton's.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It easily blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, soap, mildew, mold, and more. Forget harsh chemicals. With just plain water, Horsepower can clean bathroom tiles and tubs back to their original shine and luster. It's a game changer in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud. Take it outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. How strong is Horsepower? We took this distressed 100-year-old antique and restored it to like new with Horsepower. Amazing! Get your Ruby horsepower scrubber today with bonus scouring sponge for just $39.99. Save on buying batteries. It's powered with the latest rechargeable technology. But wait, you'll also get this stainless steel brush to make range hoods and gas stoves look brand new again. Yours free. And we're not done. You'll get this Smart Flex cone brush that fits perfectly into corners, tiny crevices on toilets and tiles, or hard to reach shower door rails. Yours free. And to top it off, we'll include this microfiber cloth to clean delicate surfaces and polish cars sparkling clean. It's also free. Great news. Horsepower is now in stock and ready to ship. But due to high demand, there is a strict limit of 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-4241. That's 1-800-980-4241. Or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-980-4241 now.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio this morning, we're being joined by former Congressman Joe Sempolinski. I got to find my camera here.
Yeah.
Struggling this morning. There we go.
We're unscripted.
We're
We've got no teleprompters. He could ask anything.
No safety net. Speaking of someone not answering, what have you thought? Okay, she's being quiet with the media, but what do you think about her overall campaign right now?
Harris?
Yeah.
I think the running out the clock narrative is correct. I think the switching positions narrative is correct.
Yeah.
I think there is a situation where everybody, and this is what everybody sort of said prior to the switch,
right?
And now suddenly they're not saying it, is there's a lack of political skill there, and they're trying to bubble wrap that and protect that because they can't. We thought they were stuck with Biden because the debate was so early. They were not legally. Now they are stuck with Harris.
Yeah.
They are riding with her all the way through November 5th, whether that's going to work out or not.
Right.
And so there is this sort of mindset to protect that asset in a way that I think may set them up for negativity. And it looks like the convention bounce, which she did get, is sort of waning. If you go to like Nate Silver's model, he's now got it back to 55% chance Trump wins and 45% that Harris wins, and it was much more even just a few days ago. So it's sort of recalibrating back to where you would expect it to be, where because Trump was such a favorite when Biden was the nominee or the potential nominee, and now I think certainly it's a closer race than it was, but it's not. You'd still rather be Trump than Harris at this moment. But, it's the day after Labor Day. We still got the actual campaign season started this morning from a traditional standpoint.
So you kind of answered this question, but ask Joe, if she messes up at the debate, will it be too late for them to switch her out too?
Yes.
I was going to say, we're getting a little
there
bit
is
close.
I mean, now you're in, because this was something that got a little technical where people didn't quite get it, where Biden was never the nominee.
Right.
Because the delegates pick the nominee at the convention. So that's why they were able to avoid some of these, because there was talk about, well, no, it's too late for this state. If under normal circumstances, if you were maybe running for Congress or state senate or dog catcher or something, but he was never legally the nominee.
Right.
He had the majority of pledged delegates. He was the presumptive nominee. But from a legal standpoint, the nomination occurs at the convention, both Republican and Democrat. And there was talk about they did the roll call vote early.
Yeah.
So that was the moment, even though it wasn't at the convention. But when the delegates do the roll call vote and someone receives a majority of the delegates, that's when they become the nominee. That's what triggers them getting on the ballot. Now, once you're the nominee, every state has a different rule about getting off the ballot.
Okay.
So some states it's easy. You just say, I don't want to run anymore.
That's kind of what's happened with RFK Jr., right?
Some states, you got to die.
Yeah.
And that's exactly correct. That's what you're seeing with RFK Jr. now, where since he was running as an independent, he was doing a very different process to get on the ballot. Again, each state has their own ballot access process, and each state has their own ballot access removal process. So he's in this sort of, he's got 50 different processes that he's going through. In some states, he wants to stay on, and some states he wants to get off.
Right.
So there's some states where they're sort of pushing him off. Some states he's doing to stay on. Some states he's doing to get off. It's a whole mess, but that is a product of we have an electoral system, and the positives outweigh the
Hey, Joe,
benefits.
look, we got a protester out there now.
Oh, my goodness.
Lock him up.
Oh.
Trump for prison.
There you go. Somebody's
it's only you that gets this kind of fun.
Expressing their opinion.
Yeah,
there you go.
All right, let me take a short break, Joe.
Yep.
Okay, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
You can tear your old statements and bills and simply toss those old bottles of pills. But thieves use this information to steal your identity. Don't be a victim. Get the ID Police, the new ink roller that encrypts all your old documents. So before you throw it out, just roll it on and your information is gone. Look, an identity thief can use simple information to get access to your credit card. Then you're responsible for the bills. But ID Police permanently prints a unique encryption graphic that makes it impossible to read through, both on the front and through the back, even if the paper is held up to the light. And it works on all forms of paper, matte or glossy. Paper shredders are slow and always jam, but roll with ID Police and you're in control. Watch again. Here's a bank statement with your name and account number. Now, one easy roll and all your personal information is blocked. Name and address? Blocked. Credit card number? Blocked. Phone, electricity, and gas bill? Now they're all safe to toss in the trash. So relax. Even your medical information is safe with the ID Police. And those applications or pre-approved checks make you vulnerable too. So block it out before you throw it out. And thwart any thief with the ID Police. Order now and get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 and get free shipping too. That's right, free shipping. This offer is not available on Amazon, but it is available online or on the phone. So call or click now to get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 with free shipping. Take control with ID Police on patrol. Order now.
Call 1-800-731-2964. That's 1-800-731-2964 or visit getidpolice.com. So call 1-800-731-2964 now.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And joining us in that studio is former Congressman Joe Sempolinski. Joe, all right, we're back on track. We had our protester walk away. You get all the excitement.
You know what? People expressing their opinion is
the American way.
The American way.
You're right.
I believe in free speech.
That's it. I have a viewer here. I think it's a good point. Unfortunately, the public has been convinced by the media that if Trump gets elected, he will change everything and become a ruler or like a dictator. You hear that?
Yep.
But as this person said, there's checks and balances, not to mention he was already in there for 4 years. So where is this narrative coming from?
Yeah, I think that is a point that's a unique point to this election. It's probably, I guess it's, there have been times in the past where there's been rematches where a former president has run, but this is something that hasn't happened for a very long time. So this is an election where you can say, prior to Biden being switched out, you had literally the two last presidents running against each other. Now you've got the sitting vice president and the former president. So you can, as much as Harris is trying to say, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D if I'm in there, and the obvious response is, you're in there right now.
Yes.
What are you
Day
doing?
one was 3.5 years ago.
You've been running the show, and apparently the other guy hasn't been for quite some time. So you can make an assessment of, all right, Kamala Harris is the sitting vice president of the United States. What do you think of the administration that she's been the number 2 in has done? And Donald Trump, was the president of the United States. So you can make an assessment of him in a way that a lot of times when you're, especially in an open seat election, because usually if a president's running for re-election, the referendum is about them. Right. But in what is now, this is for an open seat election. You have more information than you've ever had in your lifetime as to making a decision as to your assessment of the policies and the character and the what they're going to do, because you've seen it in a way that you have not seen with an open seat election on both sides of the aisle in a very long time.
But isn't it kind of interesting that Harris does seem to be trying to distance herself from some of those policy positions?
Yeah, it is weird the way she is running it. If you just elect me, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do this other thing and it's going to be great. And I think it is right to point out that do it right now. And what's funny is she's not making the argument of, well, we couldn't do it because we didn't have the Congress or something. There's not that sort of nuanced. You know, we need to. So she's not running around saying vote for such and such House member or vote for such and such Senate candidate or what have you because we need to do this. She's just saying I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, there's some constitutional problems with that because. Again, the president is a policy executor, not a policy maker.
Right.
The Congress makes the policy under our Constitution. So it should be the argument, oh, I need allies in the legislature, but she's not saying that. And then if it is something that's within the purview of the president, but there's there are a lot of the president's a very powerful person. There's a lot of things that are within his purview as the chief executive. Well, if you want that to happen, why don't you go down to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, find the old guy that's sitting there not doing his job, and ask him to do A, B, and C. He's your boss. You should be able to talk to him. So the logic, there has been a lot of show and sound and excitement, and it's been aided and abetted by the media, as we talked about today, around her, that if you scratch the surface, the logic is flawed. And so the vice president of the United States acting like she has no say is something that is a little bit absurd on its face.
People are fascinated by your protester.
Oh,
the comments. Protester in downtown Corning at 7:30 a.m. That's funny. Yeah.
Hey, I'm used to
you attract controversy.
I'm just I get the people talking.
Yes, that's exactly.
That's what we do here on Frankly Speaking. It's real talk. It's real political talk. People are talking. You may not like what I say, but they're listening.
That's it. That's exactly it. So we could probably talk about Harris and Walz the rest of the show, but it has been, and I know I mentioned it earlier in the program, but I'm watching the Sunday morning shows now, and it is very frustrating to see J.D. Vance or something like that go on and know that it is just going to be an attack. You can visually see the hatred for those people on the face of the reporter.
Well, there's sort of this, you talk about the fact-checking, quote-unquote, where they'll make a statement and then they'll feel they have an obligation to say, well, no, it's this, that, or the other thing. And not always correct.
Yeah.
And they will sort of jump on turns of phrase or maybe a metaphor in a way they don't do with, Mr. Walz, you said you were this rank, you retired at this particular rank, you did not retire at that rank. Well, you said you did X, Y, and Z in the military, and then that's it. There's
no pushback.
I mean, if it was
J.D.
Republican,
Vance,
it would be ridiculous.
They try to spin J.D. Vance's time served after this broke to say, well, his title just sounds a lot more impressive than it is.
Right.
Which
is pretty, absurd.
Yes.
And the one that's gotten me that I don't really understand where they're coming from is Walz has repeatedly attacked Vance for his education.
Yeah. Where's that coming from?
And I don't know. And especially for the Democratic Party, which really is most people at elite East Coast universities, are Democrats, right? So that you had a situation literally during the Democratic convention where the vice presidential nominee says, well, where I'm from, people don't go to Yale.
Yeah.
As if it like J.D. Vance, who came from nothing, being able to accomplish and go to a university, whether you like the politics of that university or not. And the main speaker prior to him was somebody who grew up in poverty, grew up without their biological father, went to Yale Law School, and became president of the United States. By that is William Jefferson Clinton.
Yeah.
So you have Bill Clinton was the speaker earlier in the evening, who has a very similar biographical background to J.D. Vance. And they're saying how great he is, whatever, ignoring his own major misconduct. And then Walz attacks. So is that the message of the Democratic Party, that if you're somebody who's poor, somebody who grows up with adversity, that you should be attacked for overcoming that adversity? And what do you want J.D. Vance to do with his education.
Yeah.
He went to I think went to Ohio State, right? For
I think so.
I think it was for undergrad. So he went to the state school, but then he was able to get into Yale Law School. What do you want him to do with that? Isn't moving back home to Ohio and entering public service one of the things we should praise him for doing?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that a good thing? So their messaging, I think there is a little bit of a scramble on their side.
I think so too.
Of we don't know quite what to do. This isn't what we expected. We were and on Trump's side, it's the same issue. To be fair, where Trump is ready for Biden, and now he's trying to figure out how to deal with Harris. And the Democratic Party was thinking, all right, we got Biden at the top of the ticket. Now we got to work in walls. We got to figure out what to do with word salad over here, and now we got to deal with Vance, who we didn't see coming, and what have you. So you were seeing both major parties adjust in real time, with some major strengths and weaknesses in real time on both of them as they adjust with a very tight clock, as we've talked about today. So it's in many ways a very unusual election.
Well, it's even like with Pritzker when he. Bernie's bad-mouthing billionaires, and then Pritzker, he goes, I'm a billionaire.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Pritzker didn't earn the money.
No, his heir.
Pritzker is an heir. Right, he's to a hotel fortune.
Yeah.
So there's
really
a lot
strange.
of billionaires named Pritzker.
Yeah.
And the current generation didn't make the money.
Sure.
So literally back to back, Bernie's like, billionaires are bad. And then the most unrelatable billionaire in the world comes out and says, I'm a billionaire. Like whoever is in charge of message continuity at the Democratic National Convention was asleep at the switch. Like we can't have. He said we can't. This is Governor Walz. We can't have poor kids from Appalachia going to Yale.
Yeah.
Oh, the last speaker was William Jefferson Clinton, a poor kid from Appalachia who went to Yale. Oh my God, none of it makes any sense.
When did Clinton? So for a while there, Clinton was like a political pariah, remember, with the Me Too
movement?
movement?
Of his gross sexual misconduct? Yeah, he probably should be. Probably still should be.
So what happened? Because remember, even Gillibrand was distancing herself.
Sure.
And now it seems like we're to ignore that. Isn't that weird?
I think that's another example of, if you're a Democrat, suddenly you forget about things.
Yeah.
And he's welcomed back. He was on VP night, he was the sort of keynote prior to that.
Yeah.
And they troop him out.
Yeah.
And frankly, on policy, and I'm no Bill Clinton fan, far from it. He's not a nice person.
Yes,
this is a family show. He's a not nice guy.
Yes.
But he was certainly dramatically more moderate on policy. This is a guy that said we're ending welfare as we know it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is a guy that's very different on policy than the modern Democratic Party. But again, it gets all glossed over in the interests of if you're just perceived to be on the correct side of the issues by the mainstream media. So yeah, you got a guy that, I mean, if you think about his misconduct, is pretty egregious, and very well documented. And he's
doing
back. Fine. He's
so there's like a
grand old guy of the party.
It was like maybe 6 months where he was kind of wasn't popular anymore, and then he's been at the big fundraiser, the $25 million fundraiser Biden had. Anyway, let's take another break. We'll be right back, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
It's a season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox. The Big's website is
is here, now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news, here, now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Joe Sempolinski is joining us this morning. Joe, one thing I meant to mention earlier on in the program, but I think it's worth noting, is the hostages and that heartbreaking. Nick Langworthy, Congressman Langworthy, released a great statement. It's just tragic. It's heartbreaking.
Certainly, all of the hostages that were killed is very tragic. And think of the conditions they've been held in for the last many months.
Yeah.
And God knows what type of treatment they were receiving.
Right.
But in this case, one of them was an American.
Mm-hmm.
And, you see, I think he was at the state fair in Minnesota. Governor Walz gets approached about that. And he's like, gotta go.
Yeah.
I mean, how hard is it to say, I'm sorry that, this horrible thing happened, and I'm sorry that he's dead, and what have you. That's just a human reaction to anybody being brutally murdered. But it's particularly when, and again, I value all human life, but particularly when it's an American who our government has a special obligation to protect, and failed to do that, and that is, there was. I think the first line of President Biden's statement was, "I've been working tirelessly." To get these hostages back. I believe that was the first line of his official statement, and I think he was at the beach at the time.
Yeah.
So when he's not running for re-election, so he actually can work tirelessly on the issues of being president.
Right.
And there's no more important role of being president than the role of commander-in-chief, and you're a commander-in-chief for no reason other than to protect the lives of American citizens. So maybe stop going to the beach and actually pull your head out of your, your family-friendly other part of your body, and get to work. So it's my sympathies go out to the family of all of the hostages that have been killed, and we don't want to see innocent life lost. Period. But there is this is a war that Hamas chose to start, and they could end at any time. And again, I don't want to see anyone. I value all human life. I don't see anybody killed. But this is something that highlights that this crisis sometimes moves off and on the headlines, and we get some very unusual perspectives from some people in our domestic politics on this. But we're talking about people that have been held in captivity under brutal conditions, and then were summarily executed, and that's horrible. It's
horrible. And then to see the protests, the big protests in the street, the anti-Israel protests over the weekend, just so disheartening, this whole thing, because going back to your point, I mean, there was a ceasefire on October 6th, right?
That's right. So
October 7th was completely one-sided, and it was completely Hamas, and now the trying to appease Hamas is just frustrating, and you saw Biden, to his credit, stand strong at first.
Correct.
But then when the voting didn't go his way with that uncommitted vote, and now Harris, I don't believe her to be strong on this issue either.
I don't think she's to the farthest edge of her party, but I would say that she is, by all perception, and in foreign policy, perception is reality.
Right.
How they perceive, how you're going to react. If, let's say, you butcher the pullout of Afghanistan, and then you're the president of Russia, and you perceive that I can get away with anything, and you invade Ukraine, or if you're Hamas and you perceive that I can just go slaughter Israeli civilians in southern Israel. So the perception is of Vice President Harris that she is less supportive of Israel than President Biden is.
Right.
And again, whether she is or not, her positions are very muddled at this point. I don't know what she stands for, what she's doing, other than on certain issues. But that perception becomes reality in the world. And certainly we are viewed as weak, and we are viewed as uncertain. And that leads to dangerous situations, and we just saw one of the stark realities that this is not a game. We talk about politics with scores and who's ahead, who's behind, and there's a way to perceive it that way, but it is deadly serious. It is life and death, and an American citizen paid the ultimate price because of, at least partially, America being perceived as weak.
Got a comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Democrats really don't know what they stand for, other than chaos. Joe Sempolinski is always a pleasure.
I appreciate that.
Isn't that nice? Not your protester doesn't.
No. Well,
if you
like
just
I unlike some of my friends in the Democratic Party, or perhaps some of the officials in Brazil or the United Kingdom, I believe in free speech. So if somebody wants to protest me, that's what America's all about.
Great. Joe, hey, speaking of the Labor Day and how we're kind of kicking off the end of summer, I guess, not really kicking off. How was Steuben County Fair?
I had a blast.
Yeah, it was a good year.
I managed to get to the Steuben County Fair and worked several shifts at the booth, and I took my family to the Allegheny County Fair. I also campaigned with Mr. Sapercone, if you recall. Last time we were talking at the Cattaraugus Fair, so I hit all three fairs in the 148th Assembly District. Of course, the Steuben Fair is near and dear to my heart.
Of course.
And I think, as far as I know, that booth has been the Republican booth for
ever.
I don't know. I don't know if Abe Lincoln was there, but it is chronologically possible.
Yes, it is.
It's been obviously a long-running fair, and that is the Republican booth, and I have fun being there and talking to folks as they come through. And I took my kids to the state fair. The first weekend of the state fair, and so I've hit a lot of fairs this summer, and the kids like the fairs, and it's fun. But it is an important part of the political process to be there, be present, and talking to the folks. And Democrats didn't have a booth, so I had it all to myself.
Yeah, when did that start happening?
I don't know. They always had a booth.
It's been a couple years.
The last couple years, they haven't had one. So
I guess they must not be fans of the pig races.
I am. I did. There was a point where I was working a shift, and I had some volunteers coming in, and I was working the shift app, so I had a break. And I went and got a little food and sat there and watched the pig races. And,
I always get the root beer. Of course, the root beer right there.
Root beer's right there, right over my shoulder. And they had I got to see Tyrone the Terrible's entrance with the smoke and the fire. I was like, Tyrone.
It's been the same Tyrone the Terrible since we were a child.
Listen, there's Michael Jordan, there's Wayne Gretzky, there's Babe Ruth, and there's Tyrone the Terrible. It's as simple as that.
It is. No argument here. No argument here. Let's take our last break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Joe Sempolinski is joining us on this morning's broadcast. All right, Joe, we got some last questions to get in before we go, because we're almost out of time. We mentioned the Steuben County Fair. How are the local races going? I know last time we talked, there was kind of a news on Matt McCarthy. That's a new race.
Yeah, I think that's the premier local race. I have an opponent. Congressman Langworthy has an opponent. But the premier race at the county or local level is county and family court judge is the title. That's the full sort of a weird way to say it, but it is one of our county judge positions. Judge McCarthy's been hustling. I see his lawn signs everywhere.
He took over the booth at the Sioux County
He was
Fair
working
for me.
the booth. Yeah. I know he's been in each corner of the district campaigning. He's a very good campaigner. He ran a very tough race to become Corning City judge. He has run countywide before. He knows what he's doing as a candidate, but more importantly, he is by far the most qualified candidate as far as the judge side of being a judge. Because you elect a judge, they're going to be a judge for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he's somebody who has the experience needed to do the job. He's been a judge, a full-time judge for 10 years. He's been an attorney for much longer than that. He's been a prosecutor. And his opponent has very little in-court experience and is a pretty radical liberal activist. So Matt McCarthy is definitely the person that you want to vote for come November 5th. Anywhere in Steuben County. That is a county-wide race. So if you are a resident of Steuben County, no matter what town or city or jurisdiction you live in, you have a vote on that. So that's a big jurisdiction. Steuben County's Hornell, Bath, Corning, Wayland,
He's got a lot of traveling to do.
It's a big jurisdiction.
Yeah, I know. We talked for a little bit. He was going to I think the Hornell was having a parade.
Yeah, the Irish Festival.
Oh,
he was over at the Irish Festival.
So, it sounds like he's very busy. All right, a couple comments from viewers. Seems that JD and Melania Trump's stories have the element that would fit some of the left's so-called success stories, and yet they get no coverage.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Absolutely. This is what America's all about, right? Is somebody you're not constrained by the circumstances of your birth or who your parents were. You achieve based on the merit and the content of your character. That's what this country's supposed to be all about. We should be praising it. Why is the Democratic Party's position to attack that? It's disgusting.
And then another comment from a different viewer. Joe Sempolinski is very informative. God bless him. That's nice.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's very nice.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the local. How's your race going?
Good.
Yeah.
I was in a parade. I was at the Rushford Labor Day Parade.
Very nice.
Campaigning yesterday in beautiful Rushford, which is in northwest Allegheny County.
Okay.
And they have their sort of town festival is Labor Day, and so they make a big deal of Labor Day. And so it's definitely the best Labor Day parade in that part of the world. And I was dropping off lawn signs in Cattaraugus County. And
you got your yard signs?
Oh yeah, we got lawn signs. We got we're out campaigning. We're handing out candy to the kids at the parade, and having fun doing it. So the campaign has gone very, very well, and we're working hard to get. And that's a big assembly district.
Okay.
That assembly district, and an assembly district's about 135,000 people.
Okay.
Congressional districts, for perspective, is about 780,000. Okay. So about 17% of the population. And this assembly district is still the size of Delaware.
Okay, well, there you go.
So it is. I can drive 2 hours west and still be in the same assembly district, let alone congressional district. And so there's a lot of time in the car on the road, but we're making the best of it and having a fun time, and including the family where we can. And the response has been great. The response was great at the parade yesterday, and I think we're going to have a lot of success. But there's a lot of time. Again, we're talking about what traditionally is the first day of the campaign season, not the last day of the campaign season. So there's a lot to do between now and then. And I'm looking forward to meeting many, many more voters, and we'll be out and about doing that. And also, of course, supporting, in my role as Steuben County Chairman, Judge McCarthy, Congressman Langworthy. In the northern portion of the county, we have an open assembly district there as well. Okay. Andrea Bailey is our nominee there. She's the Livingston County Clerk. That's Marjorie Burns' district. She's retiring. So if you're in Wayland, Cohocton, Avoca, that area, that's in a different assembly district. O'Mara's unopposed. Palmisano's unopposed.
They got it made.
They're doing all right because everybody loves those guys, and certainly I do as well. And I'm looking forward to being part of the team in Albany. Should I be blessed enough to be selected by the people to go be a strong voice for a part of the state that certainly doesn't get the attention it deserves compared to other portions of the state.
So it's been relatively a quiet year. I mean, I know Labor Day kicks it off, but I mean, when you got, like you mentioned, O'Mara and Palmisano, so really the ones to watch for are Matt McCarthy, you, and that's more just to watch and see how you do.
I like I said, Mr. Langworthy's got an opponent, so I'm definitely supporting Nick, and I like the job that he's doing. And so 2 of the 3 assembly districts are competitive. The congressional district is competitive, Judge, as far as you're looking at regional data. Of course, we've got things farther up on the ballot as well.
And I guess, like you said, the campaign's been going on. But before we wrap up, what do you expect? Do you think Harris is going to give another interview? Some have even speculated she might not do another interview.
I think they will eventually have to.
Yeah.
But I think they will stall it to get more time. I think some of it depends on how the debate goes. If the debate goes really well for her, then she probably shuts it down and says, nope, we're going to ride this out to the end. If the debate goes poorly, then you may see her have to change strategy. And that's going to be determined by events. We are now entering not just campaign season, it's silly season.
Yes, well,
where
that's it.
Every little thing that happens is going to get overblown into something big. It's the most important thing that's ever happened in the world. And then come Christmas, you're not even going to remember it.
No.
But this is where the diamonds are made under pressure, right?
Right.
And this is where the pressure just only goes up from here.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting, just because I hate this term, but unprecedented. It's just we don't know what's next.
Yeah, and I think that increases the pressure because it increases the attention. Where people are going, oh, this has been something where even if I'm not somebody who's a political follower, that this has been so bizarre that it attracts your interest just out of the drama of it, the narrative of it. So there's, I think, more people sort of paying attention, perhaps, at least peripherally, than there are otherwise. And also, the other piece is, I've seen statistical projections where, whoever wins Pennsylvania has a 90% chance to win the election, right?
Yeah.
Whichever way that goes. So there's a dramatic increase in focus on just something. I mean, part of this media market. You get people probably watching this in Pennsylvania.
Oh, I do, yeah.
So the Northern Tiers and the Elmira media market, certain portions of it. So that just very close to where I'm sitting right now is going to be where that election, probably 90% chance that's where that election is decided.
And that's why there's been so many rallies there already.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Trump hasn't been super close yet, but he was in. Well, Butler was
certainly Butler, right? Yeah.
But I mean, not that far off. So I think it'd be something worth paying attention to, going to his website and seeing if he's back, because those rallies are something.
I think Pennsylvania is probably the whole ball of wax.
Wow.
Based on what we see, just because there's so many electoral votes, it's close, and Harris is doing a little bit better in Wisconsin and Michigan. If she can sustain that puts all the pressure on Pennsylvania.
It's got to be annoying to see all those ads already, because they got
it's
a lot
different,
of money.
because where you're here, you see very few presidential ads. You maybe see some of the national ones. I remember, I think it was the 2012 election. I happened to be in Virginia for the weekend at the time. Virginia was a swing state, and I was sitting in a restaurant, and every commercial was, Obama or Kerry. Obama or Romney.
Yeah.
It was Obama Romney year, and it was. I'm like, oh my goodness, these people must be going mad. And I was there, about this time.
Right.
It wasn't right up against the election, so it's very, very different. I think we'll certainly have political stuff happening, but it's not the same as being in what is perceived to be a swing state.
No, and that's why I think the primaries back in 2016 were so unique, because we actually got to finally matter.
That's right. New York was very crucial to the Republican primary that year.
Yeah,
that's what happens when you're late in the calendar. Either you don't matter at all.
Yeah, right.
It's already been decided, or you are. Yeah. Crazy important. And in 2016, that's certainly Donald Trump in 2016, New York was the first Republican primary where he got an absolute majority of the vote. All his wins prior to that have been pluralities. He got more votes than the other person, but he didn't break 50. This was the first state where he broke 50%. And obviously, New York's big, so even in a Republican primary campaign, it comes with a lot of delegates. So it was a major sort of step of sort of cementing that he was the nominee 8 years ago.
All right, Joe, before we go, how can people get involved, especially as we near November? They want to start doing
joe.semplinsky@gmail.com. And so what's been good about the presidential year is we do have more people that will reach out, because they'll see what's going on and want to get involved. So I think some of the things I'll be doing this week as we get into this portion of the cycle is actually reaching out to some of those folks to say, hey, let's see how we can get you involved. And that is always something I try to then extend into the local years.
Of course.
I understand people get excited about the presidency. And I'm not saying the presidency isn't important, but your vote matters a lot more for, let's say, town board. Maybe if you're in Irwin and you want to support a town board member.
Yes. Yeah, so I couldn't agree more. So get involved. Boy, it's hard to believe. We're only going to talk, maybe one more time before
Yeah.
We'll have to twice.
Yeah,
That's
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
November 5th, the election.
Yeah, all right. All right, Joe, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
All right. Hopefully your protester doesn't return. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated.
Like I said, America. That's what America's all about.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Join us every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only at WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'll see you tomorrow at 6. I look forward to it already.